BMW, which is fun. It's me, tired Andrzej. Another successful day at work. Successful because the bike is intact, everyone's fine, happy and smiling. We're heading to the hotel for a beer. Just the last half hour, 40 minutes of riding ahead of us. We're saying goodbye to Enduro Park. It's kind of an Enduro world here, you know? Oh, a little climb at the end. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Yeah. I have to say, I am truly satisfied with today's exhilarating ride. I am genuinely satisfied with how the new GS is performing because it really enjoys having all sorts of fun. Let's start right from the very beginning. I've already told you about the engine before, that theoretically it's not a big change, just a few more horsepower, a few more Newton meters, and you can't really feel that whole shift. You simply feel that the motorcycle accelerates more smoothly at the bottom end, but it has more power and more torque right from the start. And while it's not that big of a difference, in practice it turns out that it completely changes the character of the machine. And the best part is that this happens in two ways. Because on one hand the motorcycle is smoother at low revs and pulls better. We can basically forget about shifting gears altogether. If we're inexperienced riders, we can just roll along. If we make a mistake like being in too high a gear, we just give it some throttle. Exactly, right now I'm riding in 6th gear. What do I have? 1500 RPM. It's just like a tractor. If we give it gas at high revs, then really, well, those who love the old GS will be absolutely thrilled, because they simply have a little bit more of everything, but the character remains, the sound remains. The engine itself also runs a bit quieter. It no longer sounds like a damn threshing machine, it's much more refined now. And we have the Quick Shifter Pro, which means you can shift up and down without needing to use the clutch. But it works best at high revs, and it bangs, pops in the exhaust. Boom, boom, boom. As for the electronic systems, they've been reprogrammed to match the new performance. You don't need to turn off the ABS at all. Oh! Speaking of the immense power, there's certainly plenty of it, right? You don't need to turn off ABS. You also don't need to turn off traction control. But I turned it off because I've already tested traction control enough. Nice! Really nice. While riding, you don't have to close the throttle, you don't have to go into any menus, you don't have to stop, you don't have to do anything. Look, I've got the traction control turned off. I want to turn it on. I turned it on. I want to turn it off. I turned it off, but now I've turned everything off. With a single button, it's just a matter of how long you hold it. You turn off these modes. I don't know why others don't do this. I mean, come on, these are supposedly boring Germans, and yet they have this button. But with the crazy KTM, you have to click there, go in, hold it, close the throttle, release it at the right moment, and only then bam. I always used to complain about the suspension on the BMW R1250, R1200GS, because I rode it across Thailand and on short bumps, sorry. But it was kind of a minor disaster because after hundreds of kilometers of pounding, the suspension just doesn't have much travel and doesn't handle short bumps very well. But here, as I was riding, suddenly I thought, hey, wow, it actually feels better. It still has that same characteristic because this motorcycle is kind of stiff, the center of gravity is low, the construction is very compact, and the telelever makes the bike very rigid. When you ride it, you feel like, damn, it's kind of stiff, but in this case, on these rocky roads with big boulders, I thought, damn, something works better here, something just works better. I also asked the guide later whether these are stock motorcycles or if there was any suspension update compared to the previous model. He said no, that there are no changes to the suspension, but I just found out a moment ago that all the test motorcycles today are equipped with this package of suspension, sport or rally or something like that. It's simply that higher suspension, and that made riding this motorcycle better for me. So if you're going to choose it, I would definitely go for it because it's a bit higher, but the seat itself is quite low, so you won't have any trouble reaching the ground. Exactly, because that's the thing. In every way, it tries to make riding easier for us. And the most basic aspect is the height of the machine. Because both the Africa Twin and the KTM, when I was riding them yesterday and the day before, well, if you're going through the forest in ruts on an uphill, you always have in the back of your mind what will happen if you have to stop. Because you're thinking about the fact that you'll need to put your foot down, the ground is very far away, and you have to control the bike in such a way that everything will be okay. If you're Mikhail Mikulski from Offensiva, then you're really out of luck, because your little legs never know where they're supposed to go. What gives the GS an advantage over all other adventure class motorcycles is that it never really fully tips over. How is that possible? Well, it's possible because the engine sticks out, and thanks to the crash bars, when the bike tips over, it just rests at a certain angle. No, it doesn't end up flat on the ground like a dead weight, forcing you to break your back to lift it. Instead, you first rock it so it rests on the wheels, and then hop. It's much easier to pick it up. But just the feeling itself, it's like the fact that the weight is closer to the ground makes us feel much more confident. What else? Maneuverability. But that's the same as before, it's a continuation from the previous GS. So when it comes to slow maneuvers, that precise riding, the steering angle, everything comes much easier to us than on other machines. But we pay a certain price for that. Because if we wanted to ride really fast over long bumps, like we just did at the Enduro rally, well, sorry, the GS just won't go that fast. Mainly because of the suspension. And then there's the weight distribution. It's really planted in the ground. It's not so eager to hop around and respond to our quick body movements. These are just small differences. The GS is worse at fast riding in the same way that, for example, the KTM is worse than the GS at precise riding. And that's it. And now, just ask yourself how you like to ride, and then you'll know which motorcycle is better for you. I like this display because looks are one thing, but the way it works is another. I watch how nicely it moves, transitions. Here, it's pretty intuitive. Today I changed the ABS settings because the Enduro Pro ABS still works on the rear wheel, but if we want, we can turn off the ABS on the rear wheel and lock the rear. Now, some thoughts. Here are my thoughts. I used to dislike the GS because I considered it a boring and emotionless motorcycle. Then came the water-cooled version, which I rode during the GS challenge, and I thought, well, I'm still not a fan of this motorcycle, but I understand why people consider it a fantastic machine and perfect for themselves. And why do people often choose it when they're looking for the most versatile motorcycle possible? Now I have to admit that I'm starting to like this motorcycle because it has all the features it used to have. That is, it's ridiculously easy to ride through corners, and damn, it can be just as fast as a typical sport bike, and in many situations it will be even faster because we're less worried about it. And besides, if we feel like it, it can do things like this. The previous one did it too, but it didn't really do it willingly, while this one does it very eagerly. Even today, from third gear, a quick pull on the throttle and whoosh, off it went. Supposedly, this doesn't matter when it comes to touring motorcycle. Someone will say, oh, here we go again, it's all about riding on the rear wheel, but it's actually about attracting customers. And it's about us motorcyclists having different options to choose from, because I myself used to ride only sport bikes. It had to be full throttle, power, fire, fire, fire. And now I'm in love with the adventure class, because as you saw, I took part in an Enduro rally, met fantastic people, and today I went out riding. Okay, I admit, I'm exceptionally lucky because I got to ride a bike like this in Portugal. But if we can afford a machine like this, we can also afford to go somewhere and ride in the same way. So my approach to motorcycles is changing. Still, if I've spent my whole life doing tricks and stunts and I simply enjoy doing them, then when I choose a motorcycle for myself, I want one that gives me the option to occasionally ride the way I want. It's actually funny how your perspective changes. Your whole riding style changes because suddenly you realize, hey, this bike encourages you to ride in a fun way. And when I turned off the ABS for the photo shoot, I was taking corners in supermoto mode, meaning I was sliding in sideways and controlling the drift. And it wasn't like I was forcing it just to show off for the camera. No, it just came naturally. This motorcycle is simply ready for it. BMW is changing its approach a bit because, let's be honest, they do have a bit of a problem. And they're starting to face what you could call the Harley problem, meaning they're revolving around just one group of customers. Damn, I think they want people with a bit of imagination to start riding their motorcycles. Wow, what cool bikes. And I really like that, because thanks to it I'll be even more confused. If one day I can afford to buy myself a bike like that, I'm just as envious of anyone who can afford a motorcycle for 70, 80, 90 or 100,000 zlotys. I'm really happy that they have that option, but I feel sorry for them having to make that choice. You just have to ask yourself a lot of different questions to find the right answer. And I hope this material helps with that. That's all. Take care and see you.